Welcome, everyone in the United States, Canada, and around the world to another episode of It's a Wrap with Wrap, the podcast of overcomers and useful information to better our daily life and our mental well being. I would like to thank all of our great listeners, our viewers on our YouTube channel, It's a Wrap with Wrap, the podcast uncut, and our sponsors and supporters for making the podcast such a success. Besides being heard on all major platforms throughout the world and many social media platforms, the podcast may be accessed from our website, itsawrapwithrap.com. On the website, you will find all the episodes, previews of future episodes, the podcast Book Nook, showcasing many of the books our guests have authored, and a link to subscribe to the podcast newsletter, as well as products and services offered by our sponsors. My guest today is Mark Akins. Mark has lived a life of obstacles and he has overcome each one of them. When suicide looked like rock bottom, there was more in store. Now, Mark is a sales professional, published author, motivational keynote speaker, a workshop facilitator, perception coach, and founder of Gratifying Expressions LLC. Mark is with us today to share his amazing story and inspire all of us to discuss with us how challenging our perceptions is the only way to free your success from the captivity of anxiety. Welcome, Mark, to the podcast.
Thank you, sir. It's great to be here, Mr. Ron.
It's good to have you. Now, I always like to start at the beginning. This is the podcast of overcomers, and you certainly fit in that category, given your struggles starting at an early age. Please tell our audience what life was like for you growing up in Cleveland, Ohio, your family dynamics, and all that.
Absolutely. So, grew up in a single parent household. It was me, and I have an older brother, and then I eventually had a younger brother. So, I'm the middle child, and we all have different fathers. So, that had its own struggle. None of the fathers were in the picture, and I never even met my father before. I don't even know my father's name. And so, that in itself was a challenge.
Yeah.
Growing up. We never had a close relationship with my older brother, so that was a challenge as well. You always feel like that you should have protection there and you should be supported there, but that wasn't there. And there were times where when we did share a room as a kid that he would tell me, "Hey, if kids are going to beat you up or if you're going to get into trouble, I'm not going to help you. I'm going to just watch it." And
He actually
that's a
said
great,
that? Wow. That's
yeah,
like
oh yeah,
that's like
oh
no
yeah.
support. You had no
Yeah,
support.
he was 4.5 years older than me, and that's he meant it. He meant it, and
Yeah.
there were situations where he showed it. He was never there for me, and struggled a little bit in school. Got to high school and got arrested out of school when I was 14 for marijuana possession, and got expelled, out of school that year. And the next year we moved and got expelled again from that school for, getting into a bunch of trouble and gang activity. And my mom sat me down when I was 15 and she told me that I might as well just give up at 15. She said I might as well just give up, drop out of high school. I wasn't going to make it. I kept getting in trouble. And so my older brother had dropped out already, when he was, I think his first year of high school. She let him drop out, and my cousin before him dropped out, so I would have been the third one in my generation. That was going to be what they wanted our legacy to be, right? It's for all the kids in my generation to drop out, is what it
Yeah.
appeared. So
Yeah.
it's so strange, right? And at 15 years old, what do you do when you realize you don't even have the support of your mother for something so simple as just continuing to go to school? It's not as if I was a fifth year student or if I had failed the senior year 3 or 4 times, right? It was my second year in high school at 15 years old. And so from there, I mean, I started working at 16, bought my own car, my first car, and stayed working consistently pretty much. But all through that time, I battled a lot of depression as a teenager growing up. And some of it was a little bit repressed. I was molested by my older brother when I was a child. And so some of it was the repressed anger. And then some of it was just things didn't get any better, right? The older you got, and of course, you were a little bit of a screw up, but then when you do a little bit better, it's not up to other people to decide how you should feel about yourself. But until you realize that, you look to certain people and you give them a certain power, and it's usually your parents or your best friends or your mentors or your coaches, people that you look up to, you respect and trust, you usually give them the power to tell you how you should feel about you, your success, your direction in life. And so that's a bad thing a lot of times when people are not 100% clear in their lives on how they should look at things, and then they're not going to teach you how to look at things. I'm a firm believer, and they always tell you what to think, but never teach you how to think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this is where the whole challenge your perception comes in, and I did make it out of high school. I had a lot of trouble there, but I did get out. And I was a father by the age of 19, and that didn't work out great, of course, when you're that young and you have a kid. And she ends up, of course, breaking up with me and breaking it off. And so I started paying child support since I was about 20 years old. And from there, it was just a mess. So that was another reason that I just felt a lot of stress, because at that point I had went and got my own place and I was working full time and I'm driving and had got the high school diploma, and you're out of your mother's house and you're not thinking about the family, and here it is that you go and you go try to fess up and be a man, right? And make your own way. And even though we did have the kid young, I put myself on child support. And by the way, when she broke up with me, I wanted to still be there and become what I never had. And I saw this cycle just repeating itself, right? Because here she is leaving me, and then I'm going to be what my father was to me. And it makes you think, was he ever really wanting to be there? Did she run away from him? What was the case there? And then you just start to look at yourself. Like I said, you start to look and you think, how can it be everyone else? How can it be everyone else and not be me? And if it's me that's making everyone else look like, this towards me and treat me this way, then something's got to be done about it. And this is, where I ended up eventually pushing myself to shooting myself. And if I could go back to that time, I would definitely tell, that kid to don't care what anyone else thinks of you, right? It's all about what you think of you, even if everyone else has an opinion of you. Just because everyone believes it doesn't make it true. And just because no one believes it doesn't make it a lie. Right.
Mark,
And so
Mark,
yeah.
let me ask you,
Yes, sir.
you were spiraling down. How much pain were you in?
It was unbearable. There were times, and it's amazing because I can talk about this, right? And it's
Yeah.
a bit therapeutic to get it out, but some people it's really hard to get this out. But to be honest, Ron, there were times where I'd be naked in the corner, just curled up crying. The first time I tried to overdose, my older brother, he was diagnosed with schizophrenic and bipolar, but I think it was just the drugs. My mom's been on Section 8 my entire life. My older brother gets an SSI check. My younger brother gets an SSI check. They're on food stamps. She wanted me to join the Section 8 lottery when I was 18. She had me and my brothers put in it. She wanted me to get food stamps, tried to coach me into getting an SSI check. There's no accountability. There's no work ethic. There's no, and I'm not trying to down them or anything like that, but I got to really paint the picture. And so it's a struggle because of what you're going through day to day. It's a struggle because you're alienated from wanting to do something different. It's
Right.
a struggle because of what you're repressing inside. And then it's a struggle because no matter what you do different, it's almost like you're trapped in this cycle, and that's what it felt like. So there was a lot of bad times. I used to have very like terrifying, vivid nightmares. I wake up screaming and stuff like that. My mind was just really, really sick. It had got really, really sick. When I was about 16, I took like 30 some pills, some Abilifies and something else, and it didn't do a whole lot. It for about a week I couldn't breathe out of my nose. My body was really, 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 really heavy, but I couldn't let anybody know what I did, so I would still go about my day. There was a lot of pain. Um, it was just a tough time throughout the years, and it never really got better. And so that was the reason why I eventually, turned the gun on myself. And in a way, that was I don't want to encourage anybody, but in a way, that was one of the best things that could ever happen to me from that standpoint.
Yeah, it's interesting how when things happen, they actually happen for a reason. We may not know the reason at the time it's happening, but it does happen for a reason. And I understand when that incident did happen, you lost 70% of your blood. Is that right?
Yes, correct. Yep, that's what I was told. So I am from Cleveland, Ohio, but I live down here in Houston, Texas, and Metro up there, Metro Health Hospital. They're the ones that saved my life. When I did shoot myself, I was home alone in my apartment. It was a 380, and it was a 380 high point actually. So thank God wasn't one of, like a great gun like a Smith and Wesson or something, but it was
It
it
wasn't
was
a
a high.
45 or something like
Oh
that.
my God. Yeah, yeah. It was a
A
a little
38
380
special.
bullet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a hollow point though. It was a hollow point. And they said it was less than an inch away from my heart. And it was like a hammer going through my chest, man. It was that impact was ridiculous. And you know, I could hear the blood coming out of me. I had no idea to the extent of what happened until I got off life support, and they would talk to me a little bit about it. My mom would talk to me a little bit about it. I was on life support that first day that I was in there, and I did call the ambulance myself, and that was a blessing in itself because what I experienced some of the most craziest things. Like you hear those stories about, you going blind and you going, deaf when you're dying, and so I was starting to lose my sight. And when I laid there, my life didn't flash before my eyes, but my kid brother and my daughter did. And I was waiting on that moment. I said, "Am I really even dying? When will my life flash before my eyes?" And it just kept being them. And I said, "Oh God, Mark, you can't let them think this is a way to deal with things. It doesn't matter how hard life is going to be. Somebody's going to think that you solved the issue or you found a way out if you go through with this." And then, I kept trying to get up off the floor, but I couldn't feel my whole left side, you know. And it's like, well, if you don't try, you're going to hell. And if you do try and you just can't make it, maybe God will forgive you, right? This is what I'm trying to psych myself up and I'm trying to think,
Was anybody around when this
nobody was
happened?
home. I was by myself. I lived by myself.
So you picked
And
up
I
that
was
you picked up that phone and dialed 911.
I did. I eventually, so it's all God. So I don't know where everybody's faith lies, but it's all God. Something eventually gave me the strength to get off the floor. And this is not about to be one of those, oh, I got up and I went and downstairs and I found the phone and I drove myself. It didn't last long. Okay. I got up off the kitchen floor
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and fell back in the living room. So it wasn't a huge heroic story, okay? And when I fell back in the living room, there was no way. I knew I wasn't getting up again because this time I fell on my back. And so I was laying on my stomach at first. So I eventually had found the strength to push up and start to climb back up, but there was no way. And I just started like tapping from my phone, and there it was on the couch. Thank God.
So we're talking
And
about a cell phone.
cell phone, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
This was in 2012.
okay.
And so I tell you too, and like I said, this is one of the greatest things that happened to me for so many reasons. I'm not someone I don't believe in overthinking, but I do believe in focusing on the things that matter, and you just got to find what you're going to focus on. But I was on the phone when I did it. I was on the phone with somebody when I did it, and I told them I was about to do it, and I actually shot myself on the phone. And she said she thought I was playing a joke
Wow.
and hung up. Nobody and didn't call the ambulance or anything. And when I got to the hospital, they wouldn't put me under. I heard them say that if they put me under, I'd die. So they cut me a little bit under my sternum all the way down, and then they were looking for internal bleeding, so I didn't have any. But then they take and they cut me from here all the way around my back. I had three chest tubes to start with, but then they had to go back in. I was dying a week in there, and I had to get two more chest tubes. They went back in for emergency surgery. I had to get an epidural because my body had been through so much. If they went back in, they said I'll probably go into shock to cut me open again, and it went straight in, and the surgery because I was holding it like that, so it went in and kind of came down a little bit when it came out, but it did come out. So that was a good thing too.
Our podcast guest and supporter, Stacy Roberts, physical therapist, Master of Science in Nursing and Functional Medicine practitioner, brings over 30 years of experience to her new book titled The Pain Free Formula: Solving the Puzzle of Muscle and Joint Pain Without Surgery, Drugs, or Injections, aimed at people who have tried many treatments for muscle or joint pain with limited success and are looking for a more holistic, root cause approach without relying on surgery, medications, or injections. This is not just another book filled with medical jargon or miracle cures. Stacy is a respected physiotherapist and health expert who has helped thousands of people, including professional athletes and celebrities, find real lasting relief, and she puts the entire roadmap in the book. The reader will be amazed how Stacy breaks down the truth about chronic pain, how it is not just about bones or muscles, but about how the body, the mind, and even our habits all play a role in healing. The book will give you a step by step plan to finally take control, to understand your pain, your body, and how to create an environment where healing can happen naturally. Here is the best part: her approach works without relying on surgery, injections, or constant medications. If you have been living with chronic pain, if you have been told surgery is your only option, or you are tired of just masking symptoms, you need to read The Pain Free Formula. It is not just a book, it is a lifeline. It will teach you how to take charge of your healing journey, how to understand what your body is trying to tell you, and how to use proven methods like soft wave therapy and natural movement to finally live pain free, safely, and effectively. You can obtain the Pain Free Formula on Amazon, available in paperback and Kindle. Don't wait for another sleepless night or another round of failed treatments. Take the first step toward real relief and start your journey to living pain free.
It did damage some of my left lung, so I had a lot of breathing therapy and stuff like that to go through. But they wanted to cut three-quarters of it off, so it was just all God, you know.
Yeah,
I went
yeah.
through some kidney failure in there. It's they told me every organ in my body shut down. I believe it. It was like I had to learn how to sneeze and cough, and you just feel something. I couldn't laugh when things were funny. You just feel something, you know. And they were so worried because it took me so long. I was on a catheter to start, you know, using the bathroom on my own. That they were threatening to put me on dialysis, like they're giving me one more day. And I just prayed as hard as I could.
Yeah.
It didn't sound like something I wanted, you know, when they were
No,
describing it
no,
to
you don't want to
me.
go that route.
Yeah, and so it was ridiculous. It was a time. I was in there for 30 days. I didn't have anybody come visit me every single day. I didn't have any consistent visitor every week. You just learn a lot, man. You learn a lot. And the person that I was on the phone with never even came, you know.
But after that, and I don't want to dwell on that incident, but after that, did you? Somebody must have been nice to you. Somebody must have reached out to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I had coworkers, so I did. It was a strange thing that I don't even know how they found out. So I don't know who called and told, but I did have some coworkers come to visit me when I was in there. But it was like, you know, one shot thing. People come to see you and, you know, woe is me type of deal. And my mother came a few times when I was out there, but she would get into it with the nurses about a little bit of anything, and they weren't very nice to me when she left. And I told her she can't keep doing that, you know. So she got mad and just stopped coming for a little over a week. And you know, no phone calls consistently. I had a cousin call me. Once I had a cousin come out there once. My grandmother never came. I had aunts that never came. Um, you know, it
You
was.
must, I'm sure you must have felt abandoned to some extent, obviously. Uh,
Well, it wasn't. It
how did
was
how did you make it mentally, knowing, probably nobody cares what happened to me. I'm sure that's what you said to yourself, but you persevered.
humor,
How did you do that?
humor, humor. That was all I had, and
Yeah,
so I had a few different roommates,
yeah.
and I was on the trauma floor the whole time, and then I eventually got put down on the psych floor, which got interesting. And then I couldn't do anything for myself, so I started enjoying getting sponge baths. So that was something to look forward to. And there's an older lady who throw baby powder on me when she got done. So I always look forward to the baby powder. And they ended up putting me down on the psych floor and I couldn't even get in the bed, right? I just got off my last chest tube and I couldn't stand up straight. And so I couldn't get in the bed. I had to sit up all night, and they would threaten me all the time about jumping on me and giving me a cocktail because I won't listen and go to bed. And they would threaten me about taking medicine. I wasn't going to take any medicine because what you go through at a time like that, you have to you pretend to jump back to a normal that never existed. Because until you can truly gather what's going on and that you're here, you're being evaluated at every instant. I had a doctor come in and draw a heart. And not like the cute ones, right? But do their best to draw an actual the organ of a heart and talk to me about the trajectory. And they said there's no way that you did that on accident. I mean, they were on me. They really were. I don't know if they just wanted to get me on medicine or if they really wanted to help, if they thought it was something they could help with. But I just found the humor in it, and playing Uno with people who tried to walk into Lake Erie and stuff like that. It was interesting. Everybody's got their issues, but
Yeah.
I just tried to find the humor in everything. That's what really kept me there. But
What about your
yeah,
faith?
God is a big, big part of it. But outside of, and I got to be honest, outside of like really praying for God to bring me out of that situation as healthy as possible, I didn't talk to God a whole lot because I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to say. I don't even know. You go from being so ready to end it to being so ready to leave the hospital. And
Yeah.
it's like if you leave the hospital, you're going back to your life,
Yeah.
And so it was just such a crazy time. And this is a true story. I didn't know I was on life support until after, of course, I got out the hospital. My mom told me that I was on life support. While I was in there, all they were telling me is that I lost all this blood and, I was lucky to be alive. There was people downstairs with the same wound. They've been in comas for months. How fortunate I am, all that good stuff. We went back for a checkup 2 weeks later because I still could barely, drive and function properly. And then they brought it up, and so she told me. So maybe she didn't want me to think about it, but I had this what I thought was a dream, and I was in Lake Erie, and I was drowning, and so there was this boat, and one of my aunties was on the boat, and so she drive past me on the boat really, 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 really slow, and she just stared at me while I was drowning, and the boat starts to fade away, and as I fall into the water, there was a figure that pulled me up, and I walked on the water to the shore, and I woke up. And so I don't know if that was a real spiritual thing, if that was I wasn't awake, so it's not like it was my daydreaming imaginations, but I don't know exactly what it was, but I always kind of took that as, something saved me because I could have been on the brink of slipping under in a different way,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and maybe that symbology just kind of pulled me through, but I never stopped believing in God throughout that whole thing. I never did. I never thought, why did you let me do this to myself? That's never crossed my mind today. Why did you let me do this? Why did you let me go through that pain? If I ever questioned anything, I questioned myself, and my motive for
Yeah.
truly doing it.
Yeah. We always use that phrase on this podcast. Instead of asking, why did this happen to me? Maybe you might have asked yourself, why did this happen for me?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why not me?
Yeah. Now, as bad as that suicide attempt was, you stated uh, in your bio that this was not your rock bottom. What
No.
happened? What happened at, and which is hard to believe. I'm sure people are listening to this going, God, that had to be his rock bottom. But no, Mark
No, it wasn't.
Mark claims no, that wasn't his rock bottom. Tell us what your rock bottom was after that.
Oh God. And I was 22
Yeah.
when that happened. And
Yeah.
so You get out the hospital, you lose your apartment because of obviously, right? You lose your
Yeah,
apartment.
and no rent. Yeah.
And the guy was so down to earth. He said, I'm telling you, that's why I said my sense of humor got me through it all. He says, Mark, I gotta tell you. He said, you're a good guy and everything, but there's no way. There's no way I can let you come back after that. He said, but I'll do you a favor. I won't charge you for the rest of the lease. You don't owe me any money or anything like that, but you've been through enough.
Yeah.
And that was cool. But what happens is I get out of there, and the CEO of the company I used to work for, Windsor Laurelwood, I used to work for Windsor Laurelwood, Dan out there. He actually cut me a check for my rent, and he didn't know. I didn't know. But he's like, when you get out of here, you ready to come back to work, you got a job, and how much is your rent? He said, well, I think it was 450 or 480. He said, here, check for 500. When you get out, you can pay your rent, start to get back on your feet, whatever that looks like. And I knew I couldn't go right back home, even if they were going to let me go back, because I could barely stand up. So I'm not climbing stairs. But what happens is, I went back to my mom's house, and she told me after I figured out I lost the apartment, she told me that unless I give her $250, that I couldn't come back over there.
Wow.
And I couldn't even put shoes on, right? And I was in bad shape, Ron. I was in really bad
Oh,
shape.
I'm sure.
And and so I had to go and cash this check that the CEO gave me.
Right.
She would not take me over to her house unless I cashed this check and gave her half of it. And so she was before I moved out, she was charging me 300 to stay there when I was a teenager, and she said that she took 50 off because I shot myself. And so I needed my driver's license to cash it. And I told her I knew my driver's license was in my truck. My truck was back at my apartment. We need to go down to my truck. And so she says, oh, no, I'm not taking you down there. I don't have gas. I mean, Cleveland, Ohio, you can get anywhere in 20 minutes. It really wasn't far. But she
Yeah.
said, I don't have gas to get out there. So you're going to have to cancel your license at the BMV. So I had nowhere to go, and I'm screwed up. So I canceled my license, which means I have to take my test all over again, which I had to do at 25, with the 16-year-olds just crying and everything. But I was happy I passed. And so, and I canceled that, which started a whole slew of issues for me. And I was able to go back over there, but that didn't last long. And I got back to work probably way too soon and went and got me a different apartment, and this apartment didn't work out. And so I had to I came to a crossroads. I was paying off my truck at that time, and this is real, a true story. This is so true. My last payment was due, but it was either the truck or the rent. I was in bad shape. I had lost my job, and I was in a relationship with somebody who was working at like a gas station, so she didn't have much money. And she's like, what are we gonna do? Which one are we gonna do?" I said, "We got to do the car."
Yeah.
I've been paying this off for years. I'm not about to pay rent and lose the car. What are we going to do without the car?
Yeah. I
And
mean
so,
that's a pretty wise decision.
yeah,
You gotta have wheels. I mean,
absolutely. And so, she's like, okay, well, we'll get the money together for the car. My mom says, since if it's in a garage, they can't get it. Why don't you bring the car over here, put it in my garage, and then they won't take it. So we take the car over there because we got a couple days to get this money together. And she called them, and they come and took my car that same day. And so now I had extra fees on top of the last payment.
So she called who?
The the auto place,
The
yep, to come
auto
get the
place?
car.
So she
Yep, she
wasn't
set me
on
up.
she wasn't ever on your side.
She was never on my side. She was never on me. I grew up with my worst enemy, and I'm the bigger man. I can talk to her today and all of that good stuff. But I truly it's the reason why, and it's amazing. I'm in love and I'm married now. It took a long time to get there,
Yeah.
but when you grow up in a time where everybody says, listen to your mom, trust your mom, respect your mom, love your mom, and I'm not trying to say I never had love for her, but it's just tough when somebody's always against you, and that's not the low. That's not the low. This is all just putting it in, you know, perspective. What happens is, um, we then lose the apartment, get the car back, and I'm not going back to my mother. I'm not doing that, right? So my grandmother,
Have you ever wondered how some people manage to turn tragedy into triumph? How they take what could have broken them and somehow transform it into a new beginning? Meet Judy Kim Cage, the author of Supersurvivor: How Denial, Resistance, and Persistence Can Lead to Success and a Better Life After Stroke. This remarkable book takes you on a real life journey, one that begins with a devastating stroke but evolves into a story of resilience, humor, and hope. It's not just about surviving, it's about reinventing life when everything you knew suddenly changes. In Super Survivor, Judy invites readers into her world, the world of a woman who refused to let her physical challenges, fear, or frustration define her. She writes with honesty, courage, and even laughter about the realities of stroke recovery, the setbacks, the small victories, and the powerful lessons she learned along the way. It's a story that shows us that denial, resistance, and persistence aren't necessarily bad things. In fact, when used with purpose, they can become powerful tools for healing and growth. When Judy faced her stroke, she didn't know what the future held. But instead of surrendering to despair, she channeled her energy into discovery, discovering new strengths, new possibilities, and new ways to live a full and meaningful life. Her book delivers practical insights, heartfelt wisdom, and inspiring reflections that speak to anyone facing major change, whether it's a health crisis, loss, or a personal challenge that shakes your world. Each chapter of Super Survivor blends personal storytelling with real world advice. You'll find humor in the unexpected, inspiration in the struggle, and encouragement to never give up, no matter what life throws your way. This isn't just a stroke survivor story, it's a human story about rediscovering purpose, strength, and joy. If you or someone you love has faced a stroke, chronic illness, or any life altering event, this book offers a roadmap for resilience. It reminds us that recovery is not just physical, it's emotional, mental, and deeply spiritual. Through Judy's voice, readers find permission to laugh again, to hope again, and to believe that life after adversity can be better than before. Super Survivor also highlights the importance of community and support from family, friends, and professionals, and how leaning on others can actually make us stronger. Whether you're a caregiver, medical professional, or simply someone looking for inspiration, you'll walk away from this book with renewed energy and perspective. One of the most powerful messages in Super Survivor is this: you are not your diagnosis. You are your determination. You are your persistence. You are your spirit to rise. Judy Kim Cage proves that the human will can overcome almost anything when fueled by courage, humor, and an unshakable belief in what's possible. So, whether you're seeking guidance through recovery, looking for motivation to keep pushing forward, or simply want to be inspired by an incredible story of survival, this book is for you. Pick up your copy today and discover how you too can become a super survivor. Because life after challenge isn't the end of your story, it's the start of a brand new chapter. Super Survivor by Judy Kim Cage is available on Amazon or wherever books are sold. Empower your recovery, reignite your purpose, and rewrite your story.
She says, I tell you what, you can come over here and stay with me. And my girlfriend at the time was going to stay with her brother. They wasn't that far from each other. She said, "You come stay with me," and she stay over there, and y'all still be close or whatever. And sounds like a good idea. Sounded like a good idea,
Yeah.
right? And so I said, "Well, this is cool, right?" My cousin used to stay with my grandmother, and one time when we were in between places, because I had a spurt, two spurts when I was growing up. We were homeless. One of them was kind of just living with an auntie, living with my grandmother. But then we also had a time where were living in a car and, sleep sometimes at a motel or a hotel. And, so it was interesting times. We did stay in a shelter on the west side of Cleveland for some weeks at one time too, when I was younger. So um, I'm thinking she's gonna be cool, right? And I used to visit when everything would have been fine, but it wasn't. It wasn't. And this is where everything went crazy. So, my grandmother is from Arkansas, and she has a huge belief in black magic. And so my whole family, now the older I've gotten, I realize that it's probably mental issues, but they're all like huge believers of black magic. And so they're huge believers that they all do magic against each other, which is weird. And so they also believe that their mom does magic against them. So, they don't have long hair. They'll say it's because they're putting spells on each other. Like, hey, my sister put spell in my hairbrush. Or the reason why I'm fat is because there's a spell on me. Not that I drink beer every day. I grew up in this. It put a huge wedge between me and my cousins growing up. You couldn't go and use the bathroom because they said that's where you put the spells at, was in the bathroom. So it was very, very strange growing up. My grandmother would always think people put powder and stuff down there, but for some reason, I just thought this wouldn't be my type of conflict. This was whatever they had going on.
Yeah.
And so I'm in my grandmother's attic sleeping, and I got my mattress on the floor. And one day there was roach in my bed. And so this is when 24-hour Walmarts existed. So I don't know if anybody young is watching this, but there used to be a thing before COVID where you could go to a 24-hour Walmart. And I go up to the Walmart and I get some boric acid and some Terminex. And so I come back, I follow the directions, they put it in the corners and all the stuff like that. And you spray Terminex down. And so I leave the house the next day and I come back, and this was the first time my grandmother ever cursed me out in my life. She told me, get your shit and get the f out of my house. And she said that she found the magic powder. Now I left the boric acid and the Terminex sitting out. I
Yeah.
left it sitting out. Come on now. I thought this was a joke. She don't have that great sense of humor, but today I knew she had a sense of humor because you can't be serious right now. And she says, "No, I know what you're doing up there. That mysterious magic powder." And it's like, "Grandma, why would I be doing magic on you?" And she says, "Oh, because," and I don't smoke weed and stuff now, but again, I was in my early 20s then. And so I was 23 at this time. And she says, "Well, you come in here and you throw up, and you think somebody's poisoning your weed and your liquor. That's why you're throwing up, and you think it's me." And it's like, "Well, we don't smoke weed together and we don't drink liquor together. How do I think you're doing it?" And I told her, I said, "Grandmama, I don't have no money, so I'm buying the cheapest liquor I can buy. That's why I'm throwing up. I don't have any money. I'm buying cheap beer." Like that's what's going on. I thought it was a joke. I
Yeah.
truly thought this was a joke, and she was serious.
Wow.
And this is when it all went downhill because my family has this belief. So everyone alienated me. Like I thought I was alienated before. They super duper alienated me because they all thought I was a warlock now. And
So,
so this, go
well,
ahead.
I just want to, yeah, kind of speed it along, uh, for the interest of time. But so you were, from there homeless on the streets of Cleveland
That's why.
for a
And that's
year,
why.
for a year, right?
That's why.
Okay. So you're homeless for a year. What was the light bulb moment that turned things around for you?
Um, I would have to say because, and I did actually, have days where I really slept on the bench and really just walk all night and the shelter 2100 Lakeside down there. But the light bulb started to go off when you were able to start finding people, and by people it was women, and you'd be able to stay the night here, stay the night there. Maybe you could spend a weekend here and stuff like that. And I try to work as much as I can so nobody would even know what I had going on. And when you start realizing that you're sick of that, right? So now it's like, well, I can go get a meal here. I can go get this. I can go get, it it started to get bigger than just wanting a bed or some shelter at some point. It started to get to, how do I start to change my life? How do I start to become something better? How do I start to invest in my future? And because it wasn't lasting, none of that would last. And I knew that if I didn't do something about it, God had showed me that no one else would. It had to be me. It was the only way it was going to happen, right? And then there was a guy that I had met, and he had been in prison a few times, and we would hang out or whatever. And He told me to go get a trade. He told me to go to school for HVAC. I'd never heard what HVAC was in my life, but I was willing to pursue whatever was going to, give me a good return on the time that I was investing into it. And
Right.
so that's what I did, and I even got abandoned. There was somebody that I was dating at the time who told me if I went to school, she wouldn't talk to me anymore. She wouldn't help me or anything like that. She thought it was a joke and that I was trying to do it in spite of her. So I've had a lot of strange times where it's just got to be my mental and me alone that figures out what I want to do. But yep, that was really it. Just sick and tired of being sick and tired, having been through so much at a young age, and how am I going to make it to 40, 50? I look around and see people two, three times my age all the time. I shouldn't be this way for me to be this young. And like I said, I realized that it wasn't going to be anybody but
So
me and God.
HVAC, you're talking about air conditioning,
Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Yes, sir.
heating and air. Okay, so you just answered my next question, is that you didn't really encounter help from anyone, well, other than that person who kind of told you to take up the trades. It sounded like most of the people around you were toxic. Would that be safe to
Yeah.
say? Yeah. So
Yeah.
how did you get uh, involved in sales?
Great question. How did I get involved in sales? And so it was all from HVAC. If it wasn't for HVAC, it would never happen. So I always talk up the trades to whomever would listen. But getting into HVAC school, I thought I was going to be a technician and work on the equipment. It was a dream, right? And then you get so good with your hands, you do the side hustles, and you really make some good money.
Yeah.
And I knew some guys, in trade school who were starting to get some licks like that too. But it was never like that for me for some reason. And I had an instructor who says, "Hey, I got a friend at a supply house, and I'll get you an interview with them." And so I go and I interview with them, and it took about 5 weeks. I thought it was dead, man. They wouldn't respond to me or nothing, but they hired me. And from working there about a year and a half later, a corporate company called and they wanted me to go from being a counter guy to being a parts coordinator, is what they call it. So instead of being the counter guy at the supply house, when you come in, I take your order, I go and pull your order, help load you up, and write up your ticket, and then you take it to the cashier. Instead of being that guy, I was calling in to supply houses and placing orders for this company. And so it totally flipped on me, which was another light switch in my head. Like things can flip, things can change. And you wouldn't believe it that while I was doing that, um, that same apartment that I told you that I didn't pay the rent on,
Yeah.
that came back to bite me at that time. Now I'm in my career. I'm wearing a shirt and tie to work. I got my own place back. I'm finally starting to breathe a little bit, and they started garnishing me over $500 a month, plus the child support, and I couldn't make it. I could not make it, man, and I
So
lost my car
as soon as
insurance.
somebody knew that you were doing well,
Yeah,
they put their fangs into it.
man, I needed. My bills were probably about $1,000 a month. I was bringing home like 400 every 2 weeks. And that's without eating. And things got real tough there. And 3 days after my car insurance lapsed, I got hit, but it was my fault because I wasn't insured and my license got suspended again. And it was crazy. It was you wouldn't believe it. I got into over $7,000 worth of debt with the company I was working for because they kept trying to help me get out of the situation. And so getting the car fixed, they paid like 4 or 5 grand to get my car fixed, but then they wanted me to file for bankruptcy. So at 28 years old, I had to file for bankruptcy, and they charged me for the lawyer, and they charged me for getting my car.
This podcast is being brought to you in part by the veteran-founded Hero Soap Company located in Phoenix, Arizona. In today's environment, we must be aware of the products we apply to our skin. As a two-time cancer survivor, I cannot afford to take chances, and I use these products myself. The soaps will leave you feeling clean and refreshed. All the products made by the Hero Soap Company are made in the United States with the highest quality ingredients sourced from companies in the United States whenever possible. The products are made in small batches to ensure high quality and contain premium essential oils and fragrance. All hero soaps are created without synthetic colorants, parabens, and sulfates that are irritating to the eyes, skin, mouth, and lungs, and are cruelty-free, meaning these products are not tested on animals. Each 5-ounce bar of soap is handmade in Phoenix, Arizona, and the body wash is available in 8 ounces with such refreshing scents as lime, bourbon, and frost. You will absolutely love this soap. Please also check out their gear for sale. All the products are reasonably priced. Being veteran founded, the company understands the dedication and sacrifice that each family makes to serve their country. A portion of sales is donated back to charities such as Operation Finally Home, Operation Interdependence, and the Gary Sinise Foundation that are focused on helping veterans and our first responders. Over 1,000 bars have been sent to our deployed troops. Please check out their website, herosoapcompany.com, for pricing and a detailed description of all the products. Now, when ordering, please use the code RAP for a 10% discount. The company information will be listed in the podcast notes.
Fix and all of this stuff. They kept a ledger the whole time for all this stuff and getting my insurance together and getting all my taxes, straightened out so that I could file for bankruptcy, which could have been a huge issue, right? It turned out to not be such a big issue, but when you're in bankruptcy, trying to get a place, trying to get a car, everything is a mess. But I stuck it out and I told them that I wanted to move up from the position I was in. I pulled my supervisor, I pulled her boss, and I pulled the general manager all separately. I had this talk, what could I do better? Who could I be learning from? How can I? And everybody was happy with me. And so it's like, well, what's the next step? How can I plan for the next step? And I then got to talk to the owner about it as well. And they said they were looking for me to get into service management. I had lunch with the vice president, and he was telling me he wanted me to do project management for our construction division. I wanted to get into sales. And so I ended up getting into service sales with this company, and that's what drove me to write my first book.
Right, right. And that's my next question. You state that you believe everyone has the right to express themselves, and you wrote a book titled Challenging Your Perception of Cold Calling. Don't
Yes, sir.
let anxiety hold success ransom. Tell us what inspired you to write the book and your interest in sales.
Absolutely. So from everything that I had went through, I I battle it a little bit now, but everything's a work in progress. I have abandonment issues. And so again, I can admit this stuff though. I have some abandonment issues that I deal with, and along with that comes a feeling of having to prove your worth and prove yourself. And so I looked at sales as being a way for me to become valuable, more valuable, and prove who I am, prove how dedicated I am, and to become a staple within the company because if it wasn't even just for the help that they gave me, whether I had to pay it back or not, they gave me something solid when I needed it most, which was being able to come to work every day.
They gave you a
And
life
that
right.
did, yeah, that gave me so much to be able to go to work. I had a talk with my intern about that earlier today. It's like, don't mess up a constant in your life, especially if it's something that when you put something into, you get something out of.
Yeah.
You invest in your time and then you invest your time where you're going to get the greatest return. You're always going to get paid to do a job, and you might get paid more and more the better you do it. And so I really wanted to do something that was going to give me a great return, but also make me more valuable in the company and hopefully be able to gain some love and some respect and some trust. And when I first started in sales, they gave me a book and they said, read this book, and start getting meetings. And it was about cold calling. And I just, no disrespect to the guy that wrote it because he's not like a big time author, so I'm not even gonna bring his name up. but it wasn't a great book. It wasn't a great book. It sounded like somebody who wrote it that wanted to sell to salesmen, but never been one. And there were some good points in there, but it's just the fact that I would sit in meetings with our sales team, and week after week, nobody would have new meetings. But his book would promise if you did it my way, you're only going to make 25 calls a week, and you're going to be guaranteed four meetings out of that 25. And you're going to be able to make 25 calls in 1 hour. And when I saw that that wasn't working for anyone, I had to figure out my own way to do it. And how I did it was challenging my perception of cold calling, the way I looked at cold calling, the way I looked at a prospect, the way I looked at receiving and giving a cold call, because it's a cold call for both of us. See, the salesman put all the pressure on themselves to hear no and to call, and people treat you strange, and they may curse you or whatever. But how nerve-wracking is it for somebody to pick up the phone in the middle of God knows what could be going on there, right? Or they may be on lunch break. Or there was a guy I called once, he was at his brother's wedding because I was able to get a hold of his cell phone number, right? I did end up closing that guy later on. We became pretty good friends, but you just never know. So it's always on their end too. And this is why you have to challenge the way you look at it. It's the secret to perception is it's not what you see is what you get. It's how you see is why you get. And that's how I got through everything that I went through. Is put if you want to see things you never seen in life, it's not about vacation, it's not about money, it's not about looking out a different window, right? It's about wiping your eyes and seeing things a different way. Look at everything you've already seen and just challenging the way you look at it. And you'll see things you've never seen before in life, being able to take on a different perception. And so I figured that out. As far as the cold calling thing, I wanted people to get over this whole being afraid of hearing no. And if you're afraid of conversation and communication, if you're afraid of somebody reacting to your conversation and communication, it's going to hold your success ransom in many places in life. So this is a cold interaction, right? If we've never
Yeah.
100% talked before, this is a cold call
Yeah.
in some sort or another.
Sure. Absolutely. Uh, so you are also a perception coach, and you founded Gratifying Expressions LLC. Uh, Tell us about being a perception coach and what you teach about it relating to life and sales.
Absolutely. And not everybody that I've worked with is in sales, but all different backgrounds, all different walks of life. And what it really is just like the title said, teaching people how to challenge their perception. But along with that, it's doing your best never to put ideas in other people's heads, right? When it comes to learning, I believe that learning has to have moments of discovery, which means that people have to be able to do something on their own. So, what you really want to be able to do is help them understand different views and aspects of situations. This is why I did the quote book because I knew it was going to be bigger than sales. And I believe that a great quote makes you think on your own, right? Like the old quotes, you lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Who's the horse? Who's the water? Am I the horse? And more than one way to skin a cat. So really just teaching people how to mental straight, right? So that's a word that I've come up with. It's the process of discharging ideas and emotions that no longer serve your mental health. So learning how to do that and incorporate that into your everyday life, learning how to challenge the way that you look at things, learning how to create perceptions instead of just trying to take on someone else's, right? Because we talked about how, okay, me and my perception, the prospect and their perception, and like right now, it's you and your perception, me and my perception. Will create three other people in this room that are sitting in different areas that may be hearing it a different way, that may be from a different walk of life, that may be of a different age. And you take all that stuff in, right? So just teaching people how to be able to do that and how to stay positive, figuring out what positive means to them, and then making sure that they stay positive when that comes to everything, right? You want to make sure that whatever doesn't serve you, you no longer keep it inside. This is why I came up with the process and the word, because when your body no longer needs something, you dispel it, right? Either you
Right.
urinate, you defecate, you regurgitate. So, what's the process for getting it out of your mind? Right?
Yeah.
When things no longer serve your mind, they don't naturally come out. You gotta induce that process, just like you could induce vomiting if you had to, if you really need to get it out. And so that's the biggest thing, being patient with people is a big, big thing. Being patient, being understanding, and then of course, making sure that you always try to get them to have a fresh look and a fresh perception on things and not just always trying to give them yours.
Yeah. Tell us about your career. You are a motivational speaker. What groups do you primarily speak to, and do you use your perception expertise with the audience? And what things have you done as a motivational speaker?
Absolutely. So that's been all over the place. I mean, of course, I've done, Chamber of Commerce's Rotary clubs and things like that. I was blessed to be able to do a few commencement speeches. So I've done one in Remington College in Cleveland, Remington College in Houston, and then Old Brook High School up in Cleveland. I've done workshops for teens out in Akron, Ohio, for career days. And so everything is always going to be centered around the perception thing and the right type of mind state. But that it was kind of focused on that. I've also done workshops with Morehouse College. They had a Get on the Bus tour, and I come out and I did a workshop on challenge your perception of social emotional learning. So that was a pretty cool thing to do. Um, it's just it's no real one target. I need to do better with that to kind of hone it in on one particular thing. But if someone wants me to be a part of something, or if there's an opportunity for me to be a part of something, I don't turn it down and say, "Oh, that's not really my lane." I do think it's important to open up to the youth and be able to give them this too. It's not just something I only focus on with adults. I don't think that's a bad thing either. But like I said, it really just depends. I've been to trade schools, and I speak to them as if I was speaking to a crowd full of people looking for motivation that paid for a ticket because they need it too.
Yeah,
I could be in that crowd, right? It might be another me sitting in there who
sure.
needs this more than anything. And somebody decided that they want to be a part of this. So there's no one particular lane that I try to focus on when it comes to that. And like I said, maybe one day I'll try to hone in a little bit on it. But it's just about wherever I feel like people could use it and wherever opportunity arises. Absolutely.
And I take it that you probably start out with your life story and
If it's appropriate. If
yeah,
it's appropriate, right? Not all the time when people want you to come speak, do they want you to get into that? There's certain, like I said, with the challenge of perception of social emotional learning, you don't come in and say, "Yeah, look here, I shot myself and I was beaten, I was raped, I was abused." You don't come in with stuff like that. There's always going to be something from my story that could be referenced
yeah.
while I'm speaking. And so when it makes sense, then yeah, you put certain stuff in there, but
Okay,
you
and
got to
I
know your
wasn't
audience.
referring to, that, but I was
Yeah, yeah,
referring
yeah,
more to, kind of from a challenging background,
yeah,
that
yeah,
type of thing. Yeah,
yeah. Absolutely. When it's appropriate, absolutely,
yeah. Now, how can people contact you, Mark?
absolutely. Yes, I am Mark.com. So that's going to be the main website to go there, and then the link to all three books are there. Challenge Your Perception of Cold Calling, 111 quotes to challenge your perception. And then the most recent one was You Are Still a Blessing. That's going to be available on there. The fourth one is on the way. I'm working on the fourth one right now. It's going to be a wonderful guide onto becoming a confident conqueror. Confidence is lacking in so many areas in so many people's lives. You see it all the time from just the confidence that they have on the camera when that's really just talking to yourself. To when you meet somebody in person, the influencers and stuff like that, the people I work with, from time to time, they may be comfortable talking to you, but their interactions with other people are just wow. They're totally different people, and so you know you got the whole challenger perception, but am I ever teaching people how to be confident enough to not let anxiety, be held ransom. Even if they challenge their perception, there's a lot of confidence that goes into that. And so that's what the fourth was going to be about. I'm also TikTok, challenge your perception, Instagram, challenge your perception. The O's or zeros. So on all your main platforms, YouTube, challenge your perception. So yeah. And all
Tell
that's going to be on the website as well. I'm on
tell tell
LinkedIn,
me that
Mark
website.
Akins.
Tell me that website name again.
Yeah, it's yesiammark.com. YesIamMark. Yesiammark.com.
Gotcha. Okay. That I'll put that in the podcast notes for our audience.
Yeah,
What's next for Mark Akins?
it's a great question. What's next for me? Finishing up this book. That's, of course, my fourth book and getting that out there. I'm looking to try to do some different things with this book as far as the marketing and the promotion and everything. I've been independently publishing, so I'm looking to try to do something different as far as that goes to get it out, some more exposure, and maybe bring back some attention to the other books. I'm not the type of person that believes in just throwing out my life story, right? People don't care about what you know till they know how much you care. And so I want to be able to do everything I can to help other people instead of bringing light to my story, maybe sparking a light inside of them. So to be able to do that, I've really been trying to focus attention on getting a TED talk. I've been wanting to do a TEDx talk for a very long time, and I've reached out to a lot of different people about getting something like that done, and I haven't had any success with any organizers. So I would love for that to be something that I do, and I have a talk, the blessing and the breakdown, that I would really like to be able to share. And if it's not going to be that one, I can always put something else great together. But that's a big thing, doing that, and then just constantly growing growing my outreach, and whatever it takes for me to be able to get in front of people and help people. It doesn't have to be a stage of 1,000 people or 1,000,000 people listening or watching me on any platform. As long as the right people are hearing me, is the biggest thing.
Yeah. You you're very sincere about that, I know. And I know you're like me. You're one of these guys that if it can help one person, you're going to help one person. Yeah. For those out there struggling, Mark, to overcome whatever obstacles they may face, you being someone who's jumped over those hurdles, what advice can you give them for our audience?
Okay, I'll give you a couple quick. One major thing is people have to notice you to ignore you. Whenever you're feeling ignored or left out, you have to realize people have to notice you to ignore you. What I mean by that is if right now somebody was pulling on my shirt, Mark, 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 for me to not turn my head, for me to not respond, I have to ignore them. Okay. So do you want to be noticed so that you can have attention? Right? Do you really need something that needs attention, or is it just that you have an issue that you wish somebody cared about? Because attention doesn't always mean somebody care. Always know the difference between love and care. Care for yourself, right? If you had a shirt and you loved that shirt, but you never took care of that shirt, it won't be around in nearly the same condition in the next few years. If you loved a car, but you didn't take care of the car, that car would not be the same in the next few years. How can you love yourself and don't take care of yourself? You have to have the quiet time when you need it. It's okay to talk to yourself. You're not crazy if you talk back. How can you ever think someone would want to listen to you if you don't even want to listen to yourself? It's okay to consult with yourself. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? There's nothing wrong with writing down your ideas and reflecting on the good times. I tell people when you have bad ideas, you have bad thoughts, write them out and then destroy them. So if you're thinking of jealousy, envy, anger, suicide, whatever, get it out. Get it out. Scream it if you need to. The energy that comes off of you when you scream is amazing. Get that energy out and write it down. When you write it down, destroy it, rip it, burn it, flush it. Okay. If it didn't deserve to be in your mind, it doesn't deserve to stay in your notebook, It doesn't deserve to stay in your house, and you don't want anyone to read it and pick up what you tried to get out. Okay, so just a few things, right? And then always remember, if it seems like everyone's against you, and if it seems like that it's you and not everyone else, it's possible that it's everyone else if you're in the middle of the wrong circle.
Okay.
It's 100% possible. If you're in the wrong place, it's 100% possible. Puzzle pieces are not duplicates. They were never two of the same puzzle pieces in any box. If you've ever found that, maybe save it because in 30 years it may be worth $1 million. They're all different.
Yeah.
Okay. And the reason they're different is because they all have a place. That's us. You may look at a corner piece and think that corner piece got it made. A corner piece is usually a right angle, which means it has two connecting sides. If you steal that spot, or even just go for it because it's open, if you have two pieces that fit, you have two sides that are incomplete. And you wonder why it doesn't feel right. You're in the wrong place, and you wonder why nobody wants you there. You mess up the whole picture by being there. Find out where you fit, and you'll get the best value without trying for yourself. And where you're always going to fit in at is with yourself. So trust yourself, love yourself, care for yourself, whatever that looks like, because that's going to exuberate, and that's how people are going to start to treat you and care for you when the right people are around. So that's just some tips.
It's awesome advice. It's sincere and authentic advice, and I really appreciate that. And I know the audience does. I want to thank you so much, Mark, for being on the podcast, sharing your
Thank you.
story and the great work you're doing to help others. And I wish you all the best going forward with your work.
Thank you, sir. I
And
appreciate it. God
and
bless you.
God bless you. And when that new book comes out or new stuff comes out, get a hold of me. We'll put you back on if you want to come
Okay.
back on,
I'd love to. I'd
because I
love to.
want you back on. You're great. You're great.
Thank
Um,
you. I appreciate it, sir.
and you're so inspirational. Comments and suggestions for the podcast, you can email me at it's a wrap with rap at gmail.com. We're on Facebook. It's a wrap with rap. We have about 2,000 members in our Facebook group. It's a private group. So if you want to join, just email me. Instagram, we're at It's a Wrap with Rap Podcast. We're on X at Rapper, WRAPPER 130. We're also on Blue Sky it's at RRAP.BSKY social. And we're on Mastodon, another worldwide social media at It's a Wrap with Rap. Our website is itsarapwithrap.com. YouTube, It's a Wrap with Rap, the podcast uncut. All the episodes are on the website and on YouTube. I want to thank everyone for listening or viewing. I want everybody to please stay safe. And for now, it's a wrap.